Hi, I'm Dr. Fisher, the proud superintendent of the Roselle Public Schools. Our district has always been a place of possibilities. Take it from me, I arrived here as a substitute teacher back in 1990, and I've spent my entire career serving Roselle students, and I want every one of them to find their own path to success. We work hard to provide students with extensive opportunities here at the Roselle Public Schools. The Board of Education and district leaders have found creative ways to fund building improvements at no additional cost to taxpayers. But there are limits to what we can do with our current space. Our youngest students feel the most impact. We hold a lottery for our pre-K program, and dozens of students remain on our waiting list. Many of our pre-K and kindergarten students attend school in rented space at a cost of more than $500,000 a year. These classrooms are not designed according to New Jersey standards. Many are too small and they have no bathrooms or storage. Plus, the lack of dedicated school space for early elementary education creates crowding across the rest of the district.
For many members of our community, the conversation about building a school isn't new. What was once a future consideration has now become an urgent reality. Our district is serving more students with more diverse learning needs. We are running out of space to serve our students effectively. Renting more space may address today's needs, but it is a Band-Aid on a challenge that has been growing for years. That is why the Roselle Board of Education is moving forward with a plan to transform our district and community. On September 15th, our community will vote on a bond referendum that would finance critical school improvements. When voters approve a referendum, Roselle receives state aid that we cannot access through our regular school budget. State aid lowers the amount that our community pays towards the project cost. We also want our senior homeowners to know that there are programs available to help ease the burden of property taxes. Using one application, seniors can sign up for 3 state tax relief programs.
The bond referendum includes projects that could make a powerful difference for our students and elevate our entire community. A new 3-story school building for pre-K through grade 2 will be built on Chandler Avenue on property the district already owns. Students will have a space for services and programs that support a strong foundation. All pre-K and kindergarten classrooms would have a bathroom, which is a state requirement. The gym and auditorium will be available for community use outside of school hours.
One of the most meaningful benefits of a new school building is that it would be fully ADA compliant, so all students, families, staff, and community can take part in school life with dignity and ease. This issue is deeply personal to me. My son is a former Roselle Public School student who suffered a life-changing brain injury while he was a student. Today he uses a wheelchair, and because many of our older buildings were not designed with modern accessibility standards in mind, attending certain school events and activities can be challenging or in some cases simply impossible. A new school would offer learning spaces that are modern, safe, and welcoming to everyone. We also could create a more connected and consistent educational journey for all students. Our students attend as many as 6 different schools, from pre-K through graduation, and each move requires adjustments to new buildings, routines, and classmates. More space will provide flexibility to reduce transitions district-wide, giving students more time to form relationships and settle in and learn.
We will be able to offer 2 junior high schools with Grace Wilday and Leonard V. Moore, both serving grades 6 through 8. Wilday will be a school for the arts, and Moore will be a school for innovation. Those 2 schools, as well as the elementary schools, will get makerspaces through the bond referendum. Makerspaces offer hands-on modern instruction. Our STEAM machine currently brings those types of opportunities to schools on a rotating basis. This project will provide permanent spaces for innovative learning. At Abraham Clark High School, our historic auditorium needs attention. Proposed projects include new light fixtures, stage lighting, repainted and restored walls and ceiling, and a refinished stage floor. Carpeting, drapes would be updated, and the balcony rail would be replaced to enhance safety. Of course, safety is a priority at Roselle Schools, and we need to make our school entrances more secure. Now, this referendum includes safety vestibules at all schools so office staff could screen visitors before they enter the building. The final project reflects our commitment to serve all learners. We will convert part of our central office into a transition center to prepare adult students with special needs for independent living and the workforce.
At the heart of this referendum is a simple belief. When we invest in our schools, we invest in the future of our entire community. Strong schools impact where families choose to live, help support property values, and contribute to the overall vitality of our borough. This referendum is not only about addressing today's needs, it is about positioning Roselle for tomorrow by creating schools and shared spaces that reflect the pride, potential, and promise of our borough.
The bond referendum will be held on a special election date on September 15th so that voters can focus solely on the school ballot questions. Voting by mail will be available for the election. To apply to vote by mail and for other important information, such as voter deadlines and polling locations, please visit our website. Now, we ask you to see our website and social media accounts to learn more about the proposed projects. We will hold informational events, and we will have presence at all school and community activities from now through the vote. I want to thank you for your interest in the future of the Roselle Public Schools. And remember to vote September 15th.
Good evening, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to the public discussion on our September 15th bond referendum, which is approximately 4 weeks away. And we want to take this opportunity to make sure that every potential voter is well informed about our proposal. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Fisher, Superintendent of Schools, and I'll kind of facilitate our conversation this evening, where we will have a portion of our program designed to answer questions from our community. We know this community cares about its schools, and in fact, we know tonight because you're here, and certainly tells us that you are concerned and have questions that you may want to have answered this evening. So we certainly appreciate your presence. We'll do our best this evening to be as responsive as possible to the community's needs. And in fact, what we'll kind of really outline is what this entire proposal shares throughout the entire bond referendum process. I want to just begin by letting everyone know that our facilities across the district certainly is something that we are challenged with in regards to space serving our students. It's not just a new situation. This has been a situation that has been growing over time, but currently it becomes a more urgent need to address. For nearly 15 years, we have rented a facility to accommodate our kindergartners. And today what we're going to do is talk about, that process, but we'll also share information in regards to last year when we rented space for our pre-K students here in the Roselle community. And what we will talk about through the presentation, we'll talk about the $500,000 that we pay for our lease spaces across this community. And it's not enough for us just to, talk about it this evening. We understand the impact that dozens of families that are impacted by our lack of space in regards to being placed on the waiting list for our preschool programs. And that happens on an annual basis. So that's a challenge that we are focusing on addressing. Additionally, with the new housing being built around the borough, that waiting list we anticipated to continue to grow, and the pressure on our schools continues to increase. So we're proposing a new school for our pre-K through grades 2 on Chandler Avenue. The school will be built on the land that the district currently owns. The benefits really go far beyond early education. We really want to focus on freeing up space in not only a new school, but all the schools across the districts as we begin to restructure the grade levels across each and every school. For those who don't know, Roselle, currently we have students who attend up to 6 different schools during their entire journey here in this community. Our new proposal will reduce the number of transitions down to 4. This plan is really focused on students to attend each of our schools for a minimum of 3 years, as opposed to 2 years here, 1 year there. We really want to focus on more time developing our students academically. The plan is to focus on students who attend those schools for 3 years, but not only develop them academically, but also socially. This referendum includes projects that also will improve instruction, security at all the existing schools. So what you will hear tonight is from a series of professionals who are part of my professional team, which I'll have an opportunity to introduce. Let me take this opportunity to introduce to you tonight. We have our board president who will be arriving shortly, Dr. Courtney Washington, the principal to my far right of the Kindergarten Success Academy, Ms. Lauren Gonzalez, and our interim business administrator, Dr. Melissa Simmons. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce our incoming business administrator, who's out in the audience right now, Dr. Stephen Lewis, who is out in the audience. Our professional consultants who are also here to share information. Please help me welcome our project architects, Larry Ewer, Ken Mahalik. And we also have our financial professionals. We have Jennifer Edwards and our bond counsel, Tony Salamini. Following our presentation this evening, the panel of experts will take on individual questions for each and every one of you. So without further ado, I want to proceed with our presentation this evening. Okay. Let me begin by just communicating to everyone that this endeavor has been basically 60 years in the making. And if I just take you to our slide here, a bond referendum really focuses on asking our community to support us in on the financial aspect of this project. The district, this is where the district asks the taxpayers to for permission to fund the projects. Similar to the concept of home equity, it's repaid over a period of time. We ask for voter approval. The state provides state aid to reduce the taxpayer's share of costs and upfront funding to complete all these projects. And before I begin, as you know, the previous slide, I talked about the things that we were looking to do in our bond referendum, and we talked about it being 60 years in the making. I'd like to put on the record that because of my journey here in this school district over the past 36 years, unfortunately, I haven't seen the district build anything. So I do believe that that's a very long time for a growing school district, and certainly a priority for this administration. Thank you. So, how did we get here? This has been 60 years in the making. Certainly, we know that there was a referendum proposed back in 1967, and I have to be honest, I wasn't even born yet. The RPS gained grants. We pursued budgets. We utilize our cap reserve to improve our schools continually. We're very conservative on our annual budgets. Even this year, we have a 0% tax levy increase for the 26-27 school year. I'll repeat that line. We have a very conservative budget. We had a 0% tax increase for this 26-27 school year. The referendum for us is a strategy to complete large-scale projects, which will help us with actually allow us to pursue state aid for any project that we pursue, pending voter approval. Different than the budget, which is what we utilize every day for our educational costs. As I mentioned previously, what we are proposing a new pre-K, K-1-2 school building. So I refer to it as a pre-K-2 building on Chandler Avenue as a property that we own on Chandler Avenue. We're looking to build a school that has build space in all our schools that have maker spaces, converting our Leonard V. Moore and Grace Wilday schools to schools of arts and the School of STEAM. We're looking to add security vestibules at all the schools across the district. We're looking for restoration here at the high school, preserving the artwork, the early artwork that is preserved on our walls. We're looking to develop a transition center for our adult students with special needs. And it's certainly, we're not looking, when it comes to the transition center, we're not looking to pull our students out of community-based services. We're looking to add upon those services that we've identified that our students could take advantage of. At this time, I want to move over to Ms. Gonzalez, and she'll take an opportunity to tell us a little bit about her space.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Fisher. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren Gonzalez. I'm the principal of the Kindergarten Success Academy. On this slide here, you see two images that are in real time at KSA. The first image is a closet. It's a closet that we have transformed into a small group learning space. It is in the back of a classroom, but again, it is a closet that we have repurposed into a small group learning space. The next picture you'll see here is an art desk in the hallway. That is our art teacher's desk and all of her supplies. We have completely run out of space at KSA. Our specials teachers share desks and share spaces so we don't have allocated space for that. We have more than 200 young scholars attending the Kindergarten Success Academy in a space that was once Girls Catholic High School, that was open from 1963 until 1983. And so we are educating 4- and 5-year-olds in a space that was designed over 60 years ago for teenagers. That being said, we also have a hurdle at KSA where our students with physical disabilities are unable to attend school with their peers. That means that they go to one school and their peers go to another because our building cannot accommodate their physical needs. And certainly, we want to make sure that we have an adequate learning and equitable learning experience for all of our scholars. As you can see, that we lack so much storage that classroom spaces have to be allocated into our multi-purpose spaces, closets, hallways. At this time, you can really get a sense just by these 2 photos, the types of challenges that we have at KSA each and every day. What is not pictured on the screen here are the 3 flights of stairs that our scholars are expected to walk up several times a day to the cafeteria and to their classrooms. We do not have a gymnasium. We do not have an auditorium. We do not have a cafeteria. We do not have a playground. When we go outside for recess or for physical education, we play in the parking lot or on several pieces of grass that is allocated to us 1 period out of the day for recess. These are just a few challenges that we have at KSA, and I hope that if you have any questions about the Kindergarten Success Academy, you share them with us this evening. I'm happy to answer all of your questions. Thank you.
Want me to continue? Good evening, everyone. Larry Ewer from Net Architects. On the screen is a proposed rendering of the school. This is a view of the 3-story school, approximately 115,000 square feet. This view is taken from Chandler Avenue, facing west on the site. Thank you for the music. The red area you see in the middle is the entrance to the school. As you'll see when I present the floor plans, the school is designed so that it can be used by the community after hours, and the rest of the school can be locked off. And that includes several areas which I will show you. Next slide, please. This is an overall site plan of the school. Chandler Avenue being on the bottom, which is west of the site. Chouette being on the wet, you can't see it, but it's on the north side of the site. Harrison Avenue on the east side, and Morris Place on the south side. Nope, please go back. So overall on the site plan, you can see how the school lays out on the site. There's residences on the north and south sides of the site. The parking lot would be off of Chandler Avenue. There's approximately 111 parking spaces. It would also allow for parent pickup and drop off of their students. You're seeing a retention basin on the site. It'll be somewhere in that area. Obviously, we'll have playground areas as well. Next slide, please. So this is the overall first floor plan of the school. The yellow area you see in the middle is the entrance to the school. That's where all the administration offices are located. The area to the far right in the front is the auditorium, which seats approximately 600 people. Gymnasium behind that, cafeteria in the back of the building. Those are the core spaces that would be available to the community at night. It would be a separate entrance, as you can see. The rest of the school would be locked off. The 10 classrooms that are in the, I'll call it red color, those are the pre-K classrooms. They are sized by DOE, Department of Education standards, approximately 1,000 square feet. They all have restrooms inside the classrooms. The entire school was ADA compliant. That includes entryways, restrooms, elevators, etc. The left-hand wing, those blue classrooms, those are first grade classrooms. The other brown rooms you see are a multitude of other rooms, small group instruction, special ed, STEAM classrooms. There's also a nurse's suite on this floor, CST offices on this floor, faculty rooms, etc. on this floor. Next slide, please. The second floor, the classrooms on the left again in the blue are also first grade classrooms. The ones in yellow are 12 kindergarten classrooms. They are identical in size to the pre-K classrooms below them. There is also an innovative center, which is basically a media center in the pink area, and there's also a science area on this floor. Next slide, please. Lastly, the third floor is first grade classrooms and the second grade classrooms. The idea obviously is the older students go on the upper floors, the younger students go on the bottom floors. So that's the overall size of the building, approximately 115,000 square feet over 3 floors, completely ADA accessible, and it works out very well on this is actually the breakdown of all the classrooms, as I mentioned when I went through the plans. 10 pre-K, 12 kindergarten, 12 first and second grades, total of 46 classrooms, general classrooms, and then there are special classrooms such as special ed, small group instruction, STEM labs, and a technology lab. Thank you.
So the question often comes up about why pre-K being a priority. As you can read, currently we provide just a fraction of services to our pre-K population, particularly students that are eligible. The KSA has approximately 220 or better students attending the kindergarten. So you talk about our pre-K universe of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. There's approximately 400, 3 and 4-year-olds who don't have access to early childhood education. Many of these students are missing out on the early foundation, which we believe will help develop them educationally, socially, develop their motor skills, and also impacts parents who are paying for daycare. So we're fortunate to receive preschool aid to support us in our pre-K expansion program. Students are learning currently, as you heard, in leased space, not designed for early education. If anyone's familiar with the early education, there are certain particulars, as Larry mentioned, in the classroom spaces, such as bathrooms, which is critical. Currently, our spaces require that we receive waivers from the state annually because our bathrooms aren't in the classroom. That definitely is a challenge for little people. The demand for pre-K will certainly continue to grow because we are watching the trends of new housing being built here in the community. So it's our obligation to continue to stay in front of that. Next slide.
Evening. So here, one of the questions that was asked to us is what other enrollment increases can we expect? And a lot of questions came up with the new development. Well, we were able to gather this information that we have 2 new developments here in Roselle, the park, and they have phase 4 and 5 there. And then you also have the Edison, and that's actually opening up this summer. In that, the first one, the park, we have 346 units, and in the Edison, we have 195 units. So in Roselle, just by these 2 developments, we have increased the family units to 541. Then the question becomes, are they also going to be including any grade age students? And they are. We are already receiving some of the students from these developments. And we also know that there are more to come. And one of the things that is so important is how much does it really cost for us to find other spaces that are not school buildings. Right now, as Dr. Fisher mentioned, we have our students in a couple of different places. And these buildings are not made for kindergarten or preschool. But unfortunately, this is what we have to do in order to accommodate some of the needs. Ms. Gonzalez just talked about some of the things that she has. That's also a leased space. That's not our building, but we needed to put her kindergarteners somewhere, so that's why we're leasing that space. The cost of both of those leases is a total of $500,000. And we continue to do whatever it takes to keep it renovated for our purposes. In addition to that, when we don't have any space throughout the district and we have students that have needs, we are then, especially if we're talking about our special needs students, we are then, unfortunately, we have to consider outside placement. The average outside placement for a student that goes to a private school is $150,000 per child. Let me say that one again. If we have to place a student out of district into a private school placement, the average cost is $150,000 per child. The average tuition cost is about $96,000. And then we always have a bus route. The bus routes range from $20,000 to $50,000 per route. And then at times, and most of the times, we have to also add an aid to the bus. So together, that's why it costs us $150,000 per child. One of the things that we do get, and we're actually trying to work on this, is we did receive the preschool expansion grant. In the preschool expansion grant, that allows us to receive funding for our preschool learners, for 3 and 4 year olds, and we receive an average of $17,000 per child. However, if we don't have the space for those children, we cannot receive those monies. In addition to that, because we don't have a space, we are now working with outside providers for them to accommodate our students. And at that time, those providers will receive about $19,000 per child, but it will not be our money. It would be the provider's money. So even though we would be able to bring students in and get $17,000 per child, we can't do it because we don't have the space.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Courtney Washington here. I just want to keep this conversational. When we talk about a new school and what it would mean for the district, it would mean several things, and there will be a significant ripple effect across the district. Our students will all start in a building where they can develop community. Our buildings will have fewer transitions. Our children go through as many as 6 to 7 transitions while they're here on their educational journey through the Roselle Public Schools. This would also help us free up space, that much needed space, in our elementary schools. These transitions will also have other academic and social effects. It's no secret that we have to deal with the behaviors of our students. Being in one space will allow for continuity. It will allow our students to develop community, its sustainability, and they will also learn how to self-regulate and not have to transfer so many different times and adjust to many different cultures, school cultures and people. That's seriously significant for our youngest learners. And these other schools where we're going to free up the space, they can be reconfigured for our children and our students who have different ideas for what they like and what their interests are. Not every student is going to be athletic. There are some students that want to explore the arts, and there are some students that want to explore science. And so we would be able, through this referendum, create 2 new schools focused on the arts and one focused on science. And I think that's important, that we are not just governing for a time that is long past. We are governing and designing educational spaces for the future of our students. And around the county, schools are building, schools are expanding, and they're designing things for their students. And I want us to have that same opportunity to design these spaces for our students and as we think about their future beyond Roselle. Dr. Fisher.
So as you can see on...
I'm sorry. As you can see right now, currently, we have our pre-K and our kindergartens in rented spaces for early elementary. In our future, we want a new school, as you've heard, for pre-K to grade 2. Currently, we have our elementary students also in grades 1 through 4. This will be reconfigured to grades 3 through 5. At all the elementaries, LV Moore will be configured from a 5 to 6 to a 6 to 8, and Grace Wilday will follow that same pattern, and the high school will still stay in the same pattern for 9 to 12.
Thank you. We are currently, one of the opportunities that we were afforded to bring in what we call the STEAM machine, and you may have seen it throughout the borough, where we've created opportunities for our scholars across the district to have instructional opportunities that allow them to use STEAM tools, whether that's makerspace equipment and a host of forward-thinking instructional practices through our STEAM machine. This is a mobile unit that we actually travel through every school across the district and creating opportunities. Last year was the very first year that we had an opportunity to optimize our usage, and we're looking to increase this use this year. And it's just an example of when you don't have space, you're forced to create space. And this is what the STEAM machine has done for us. We're looking to develop skills through our maker spaces. As you'll see, we talked about on our plans that we're looking to increase spaces at every school across the district, creating innovative learning opportunities. And as you heard Dr. Washington mention, learning is all about being future forward. The strategies of learning of the past have kind of gone. Opportunities to have kids use their critical thinking skills, particularly as we think about aligning to our most recently adopted Portrait of a Graduate. It's going to be very critical that we have instructional spaces that will support that. As you heard, we're also looking to convert the LV Moore and Grace Wilday schools very particularly into schools of the art. Kids have interests, and certainly we want to create opportunities where student voice is promoted. We're looking to convert existing classroom spaces into hands-on learning spaces. Our schools are certainly in a condition which we can't do that under the current configuration. We want to expand those opportunities for science, designing, and engineering. And the only way you do that is having a facility and space that will accommodate those sorts of opportunities and activities. We want to create spaces that support collaboration, creativity, and problem-solving skills. And if you follow any of the district's new initiatives, certainly you'll see many of our initiatives follow that same pathway. The STEAM machine, as you saw, is just another example. The makerspace is another example of what we're looking to do. And I'll turn it over to Ken just to talk a little bit about the makerspace.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. My name is Ken Mahalik from Netta Architects, and all of the elementary schools and middle school and junior high school will receive, as part of the referendum question number 2, new makerspace classrooms. And these, in case you're not familiar with what goes on in a makerspace, it's basically a place where students can create and build three-dimensional models and projects using various equipment such as 3D printers, woodworking equipment, and other similar equipment as part of their course curriculum. Basically what will happen here is you'll design in one area of the room, you'll design it using computers and input from teachers, and then you'll be actually able to fabricate your project in a separate area of the building where the, separate area of the room where the equipment will be. Another Part of the referendum question number 2 will include renovation of this space that you're sitting in right now, which is our auditorium at the high school. And we're basically looking at doing a facelift as well as upgrades to the lighting system. So there'll be a new rigging lighting system. There'll be new flooring going in. There'll be walls being painted, ceilings will be painted. The wood wainscot that you see along the perimeter will be upgraded. We'll also get new lighting in here. We'll also do some safety upgrades, including a new balcony railing to make it code compliant. Another part of that referendum number 2 will be creating secure vestibules at all the schools. This will allow for each school to have a central single point of entry for each school building for security reasons. And what will happen here is we'll select one entrance vestibule to be dedicated for this purpose. And what will happen there is you'll have bulletproof glass. You'll have an intercom system that allows a visitor to the school to communicate with the main office. And it also allows for good visibility because of that open glass view, which I think is another rendering that we may have here. Yeah, there we go. So again, it's part of the creation of security for the school buildings. And then another aspect of that referendum question number 2 would be creating a new transition center to be located at the current BOE office building. It's roughly about 3,000 square feet, which would be designed and outfitted to provide the adult students with special needs opportunities to learn life skills. As Dr. Fisher mentioned, this would be a supplement to what goes on already in the community. The building would contain a food preparation area, dining areas, washing and folding, laundry facility. Would have a driving simulator area. It would also have resume writing, tutoring area, and it would also have a mock retail space to help students learn how to exchange and facilitate in a retail space. I think.
Good evening, everyone. Tony Solomini from Wilentz, Goldman, and Spitzer. I'm excited to be here tonight to hopefully be part of this transformative project. We've heard from the superintendent, the administrators, and the architects about the project. I just want to talk to you about the practicality of how the actual ballot questions will look. As indicated, there are 2 ballot questions. The first ballot question will be simply on the new school. That project totals $79.7 million. One big benefit of going out for a referendum is the receipt of state aid. And this project is eligible to receive approximately $5 million worth of state aid. The tax impact, which Jennifer Edwards from Acacia is here, she can go into further detail, but it's about $60 a month to the average assessed home in the community. One of the real benefits other than the state aid is the district would be borrowing money for a period of 30 years. And the benefit as a resident is you're only paying your fair share when you live in the community. So if you only live here 2 years, you're only paying for 2 years of the improvements, as opposed to if you fund improvements all today, you're paying for the total cost of the improvements, even though those improvements will last 20 or 30 years. The ballot will also have a second question, including the projects that Ken mostly spoke about. The total cost of those projects are $7.4 million. Those projects are eligible to receive up to $4.2 billion. that results in a tax impact of additional approximately $4 a month, and those projects would be financed over 20 years. The way the ballot question is structured is question 2 can only pass if question 1 is also approved at the referendum. So the passage of question 2 is contingent upon the passage of question 1 as well. To delve a little bit more into state aid and kind of the
You gotta go back. 2 slides back.
Perfect. So there's some safeguards put in place for the residents. The district is not legally allowed to spend 1 cent more than is authorized by the voters. And if anybody's ever done a project on their own house, they always come in higher. That cannot happen in a school project, and the architects have taken that into consideration when they've established these budgets. So these budgets are not to exceed budgets because the school is not allowed to spend 1 cent more from any source of funds. Another safeguard put in place for the public is any money remaining once the projects are done cannot be used for any other projects or any other purposes throughout the school district. That has to be returned directly to you, the taxpayers, in the form of tax relief. Probably if you follow any of your local communities in the news over the last couple of years, referendums have been very prevalent and rampant throughout the state of New Jersey. And it's because school districts cannot finance projects other than borrowing money to finance those projects. And the important part is that state debt service aid comes from all the taxes that we all pay as residents of New Jersey. So this is kind of your opportunity to get Roselle some money back because your tax dollars are paying for improvements to other school districts currently that have had approved referendums. So this state aid is really only available if you approve the referendum questions. It's not available if the school district decided to fund these projects through its general fund budget or through its capital reserve, which is the board's savings. To go in a little bit more detail, I'm going to turn it over to Jen Edwards.
Thanks, Tony. Hi, everyone. Jennifer Edwards with Acacia Financial Group. We've been working with the district to project the tax impact for these projects and the 2 questions. As Tony mentioned, question 1, if approved, it will be issued in debt. We'll be issuing it for a period of 30 years, which is the useful life of the building. Actually, the building will have a longer useful life, but the bond market usually only goes out 30 years. Question 2 is being estimated at a 20-year payback because that is standard renovations with those projects. We're estimating a 5% interest rate on the borrowing of those funds. As Tony mentioned, the only way we can get state aid applied to the bond issue is if we issue bonds for a long period of time. The benefit to the school district is the school district has the ability to access the tax-exempt municipal bond market, which is the lowest borrowing feature in today's market. Bonds are sold through a competitive process. The district will have to borrow the full amount of the referendum, and then they will be selling them on a competitive basis and be accepting the lowest interest rate that is offered to them on that day of the bid. The district will be able to make the bonds callable in the future. What that means is you're able to refinance it like a mortgage down the road. So if rates were to drop in the future, they can actually redeem those bonds and issue new ones at a lower interest rate. So that will be reserved for the district, and the rates will not be subject to being non-callable or non-refinanceable. The district will receive state aid annually in their state aid form, which comes every year in March. They will get a form that comes in. It'll say how much the state aid is. We already know that that has been determined because we have eligible cost letters from the state telling us what projects are eligible and how much that state aid is going to be annually. The tax impact is going to be based on your assessed value of your home, not the market value that you can sell your home for. So that is really important to remember. You need to look up your assessed value. The school district's website has a link that you can find your home and the assessed value, and then the QR code, you can look up the assessed value for your block and lot, and then find out how much the monthly tax impact will be. If you're looking for the annual payment, you would just multiply that by 12 for the 12 months. The estimate for question 1 is $60 a month, and that's based on the average assessed valuation of $122,763, which is the 2025 average home assessment in Roselle. Question 2 is estimated at $4 a month.
That all of our residents was aware of. This is not. One of the things we want to make sure that our residents are aware of is for those seniors who have a fixed income, there is an opportunity for tax relief. So based on your income, you can apply for 3 different opportunities when it comes to tax relief from the state of New Jersey. So one form will give you 3 opportunities. If you then qualify, the program is to freeze your taxes and then reimburse you for any increases through this process. So if you qualify and the average assessed home is the increase is $60 in taxes, you would be reimbursed for those $60 per month. One of the things that the programs is New Jersey and Anchor programs provide those. There's also opportunities for property tax rebates. You can apply also as you do your taxes for those rebates and also get tax credits for that. That also reduces the payments you may need to make on your tax on your tax returns for the year. We gave you the number if you'd like to call and get information on that, and also the website is here. This presentation will also be posted, so you could go back and get the number and also get the website if that applies to you or one of your neighbors or somebody you know in the community that may be on a fixed income and may be interested in these kind of programs.
So this is the QR code again, and we've really been attempting to keep the community updated along the way as much as we can within our budget constraints. We have provided information on the district website, specifically under the tab that says Referendum. We've created an email which gives access to, we have an individual who responds accordingly for questions related to the project. And again, one of the more popular ways that we've been spreading our messages via our Facebook and our Instagram communication platforms. We also have shared information, video footage of some of our schools across the district and a couple of PSAs, which also talks about the project in its entirety. This really concludes this portion of the presentation, but I would like to say that, I want to, we'll take some questions in a moment, but it's important to know that this has been a long time in the making. It has been something that we have committed ourselves through for the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years as we work through the district strategic plan entitled Vision 2027. And part of that community opportunity really laid it very clear that there was a community need for a future school. So we've been driving home for the last 4 to 5 years to this particular point. So we're going to really be encouraging folks to come out and vote on this particular special election on September 15th. So again, I want to thank you for coming out, and we'll have some opportunities for some questions to be answered. Sherry, did you want to facilitate our? Yeah, thank you.
How's everyone doing? Brandon Bernier from Roselle. So I'll start with the same questions I had at the last one of these we did, mainly on the eligible costs. I've been trying to get my hands on those eligible cost letters. I haven't been able to yet, but the state aid percentage we're receiving is 57% of eligible costs, which means the state looked at an $80 million school building and said only $9 million of that is what we're determining to be eligible costs. So what I asked the last time was for an explanation as to why that calculation came in so low compared to an $80 million building. So I'd hope to start with an answer on that one.
So that's a great question. So the state reviews new construction and renovations differently. So any renovation, which are all the projects in the second question, are usually eligible for aid at 100% of the total project cost. So anything for health and safety, anything for educational adequacy is eligible at 100% of whatever the actual cost is. So if it costs $2 million to redo a roof, $2 million is eligible, okay? When you're talking about new construction, they use a different formula. And the formula they use is they see how much square feet you have in your district, and each student by statute is entitled to a certain amount of square feet. And it's a simple calculation. We have X amount of square feet, we have Y amount of students, so we're allowed to build a certain amount of square feet to educate those unhoused students. The calculation does not support the amount of space you're actually building, and it's simply because in today's educational environment, you don't use schools the same way you did years and years ago. You know, in a classroom now where you might have 5 or 6 special needs students, according to the DOE formula, you're supposed to have 30 kids in there. You know, if you have an art room or a music room that's used on like a transitioning basis, but it's not a permanent classroom, you're supposed to have 30 kids in there. So we use educational space differently. So the aid is based on the amount of eligible square feet that we were allowed to build based on our student count. And there's also limitations on the future student count that you can actually utilize. The additional problem with the formula with new construction, this law was from 2000. In 2000, the statute says that for every eligible square foot, it should cost $143 to build. So it only gives aid based on $143 a square foot. The actual cost in 2000 was not even $143 a square foot. So even the spaces that are eligible now, you're only getting eligibility on $143, not the actual cost. So the way the statute is set up, renovations, you get aid on the actual cost. For new construction, you get aid on eligible square feet based on unhoused students at a much lower reduced cost. And I know that's a lot of information, and it's...
No, it's fine. So along those lines, are additions to existing schools or adding a second floor considered renovations or new construction?
New construction.
Okay. There's no one else behind me. So second question relates to our enrollment numbers. So at the last one of these, it was stated in 2018 enrollment was somewhere around 2,100. The district's budgets from that year show that it was around 28 or 2,900. And the budgets for the last 3 years actually show an overall trend in enrollment downwards. So how do we square that against claims that all of these new apartment buildings and such are putting a strain on us? I get the need for the preschool. That's something we don't have. We need the room for that. But what I don't see in the facts are an upward trend in enrollment figures. The budgets on your website show quite the opposite. So how do we square that?
The volume is off. Okay, so I actually have the enrollment numbers in front of me. And we are averaging about, right now we're at 2,700. We are actually, after, and we always put into play, especially now with COVID, there was a lot of transition during the COVID years. But in 2021, we were at 2,500, 2,563. We continue to increase there. And if you look at all the numbers across the board, we had a little dip in 23, 24, where we have 2,560. But then in 24, 25, we came right back to 2,695. We have right now in 25, 26, 2,765. So we increased another 100 students. And now we're at 27, which I know is probably about 28 with all the additional students we had this year alone. So we're already trending higher, and we've been trending higher for, this is a 8-year analysis of all of the enrollment. So it's quite supportive of the increase in the student count and the lack of space and capacity that we currently have.
Okay.
And those numbers are published on the advertised budgets. That's also on our website.
Right, I'll have to look at those again, because when I looked, and maybe I was looking at full-time and part-time, the total enrollment, but I was pretty certain the last 3 years it was a downward trend leading into this year. But I'll follow up with you on that. Question back on the finance side. What's the total cost, including the interest over the 30 years for the school? And at what point would we break even against the $500,000 we're paying in rented space at this point?
So question, this is just related to the new building, right? Question one?
Right, just the 80 million.
Yeah. So 80 million over 30 years at a 5% interest rate. Remember, we're going to be doing a competitive sale. You know, interest, I'm going to go on my spreadsheet because I can't read my printout.
I'm assuming somewhere in the 110.
Yeah, that's not the right one. It's 68, right?
68. Yep.
Should have brought my my glasses. So interest for 30 years on the 80 million is about 68 million, but the estimated annual debt service aid will equate to about 8 million. So even though the aid that we're saying in there is roughly 5 million, you're going to get that debt service aid percentage on principal and interest. So you actually end up getting aid on the interest as well.
So net total cost at the end of
Net
that
total
is
cost 140.
140.
Yeah,
So-
the average annual debt service, net debt service payment after aid is approximately 4.6 million.
So even if we factored in, give it a good 10% a year increase on the $500,000 we're paying for rented space, you're looking at not breaking even on this for 200 years. Does that make sense?
You mean because you're netting off 500,000 on that?
Right. I mean, by the time we spend 140 million, the way we're doing it today in renting space at $500,000 a year, if I look at building something I own compared to renting, I want to look at what point am I going to break even on owning that asset versus renting. If I want to go lease a car, I'm not going to buy a car for millions of dollars more than what my lease would be, and I'm not going to break even on owning it for 200 plus years. And I get that. That's just
But the
financial.
debt will be paid off. But the debt will be paid off in 30 years, and you'll own the building.
No, understood. But financially, you're not going to break even till far after that.
And also, if I can just add to that, so it also reconfigures all the other schools. So there's that academic component as well.
No,
so
absolutely.
There's that financial
There's the
component. but
academic,
there's the
there's
academic component.
The quality of the space, I get all that, but I want to make sure on some of these arguments we're making, comparing to the $500,000 we're spending, comparing the enrollments to what's happening with the apartments being built. I want to make sure those arguments are legit. If the argument is we need this great new space, we need the pre-K classrooms, make that argument and say that the $768 a year tax increase is worth it, and make that argument strong. I wouldn't, I'll leave it there if anyone else has questions.
I just, 1 second, Mr. Bernier. I just want to add for everyone's clarification, we've been leasing space at just one school to the tune of $500,000 a year for the last 15 years. That's $7.5 million of money that we don't own, that our taxpayers have paid out, right? Now, when we pay for renovations of that space as well, and the $500,000 does not include the utilities that we pay. In the last 6 years, we paid $368,000 plus in utilities in a space that we don't own. So now, if we had spent or not been in this lease or paying ourselves this $500,000, we could have paid for the transition center for our disabled students, or that money is going to come back to us.
That much, I agree. And
But so I just want to just
to
clarify
my
that
point,
for
the last
everyone.
time, I wish we had made question 2 possible to be passed on its own. We talked about all the effort and the money that this has taken the district to put it on the ballot, to run the election. I'm going to hate to see that question 2 passes overwhelmingly and question 1 fails, and then we don't get those renovations, and we would have to go back out for another referendum just for renovations and do this all over again, when we could have just had 2 questions on their own merit, and 1 could have been passed the first time around. We'll see what folks do, but I can't wrap my head around that.
But I just want to be clear
I
that
get
we
the
didn't
strategy,
vote to spend $7.5 million over 15 years. That wasn't a referendum, but that's our tax money
No,
as
understood.
well. And these buildings are almost 100 years old.
Understood.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Name is Ivan Duchesne, Roselle resident. I have 2 of my precious in Roselle. And I just want to preface by saying that, again, I have nothing, even that, and nothing personal. I like Dr. Fisher, I like Dr. Washington, I like everybody on the board. My question deals with the fact that in terms of the problems, as Dr. Fisher said, he has not seen anything built in Roselle for the last 60 years, which is most likely correct. Now, what has happened to Roselle school rankings over the last 60 years? That's the question I'd like him to answer, number 1. So, if nothing has happened over the last 60 years in Roselle, in other words, the problems have, Roselle has remained in the bottom 10% of the state. Bottom 10% of the state. The issues that are plaguing the students does not have to do with space. It has to do with chronic absenteeism, pupil, basically economic issues, and this is not something that building a $79 million complex will alleviate. When I look at the fundamental problem in terms of chronic absenteeism, building a $79 million project will not be the solution. Based on past history, the solutions usually has to do with supporting the parents and finding out the cause of those chronic absenteeism, economic gap issues. But anyway, the problem is, again, try to help me understand why, because it's going to cost me about $2,160 per year. If I invest that at 12% S&P 500, it'll make me a nice sum of money. I could retire on that. But please try to convince me why building a $79 million edifice will help in terms of improving the rankings of the Roselle School. Having said that, I have 2 brothers that have come here. They're doing very well. You know, one of them is a superintendent, the other one is an attorney. But the point is, how is $79 million costing me $2,000 per year gonna help improve the rankings of the school system in Roselle, the students?
Simply said, part of this endeavor is to change the student experience. Certainly, facilities is a strong correlation. I recall your question at the session we had previously. The reason why we do this work is not simply just to build the biggest facility that we need. There are challenges. We talked about having continuity in our instructional environment. Kids, the transition, all that attributes to the student experience. It's important to understand, we talk about our early childhood program. If we can't have a strong early childhood foundation, that's where it all gets started. It starts with those pre-K, those kindergarten kids. That is the foundation. So part of this endeavor is to really focus on those youngsters. We talk about, the experience. There are a number of successful students who have come out of our school district, and it's a known fact. This project has nothing to do with just saying, can we build? The need is there. We talk about aging facilities. These facilities are aged out. That alone tells us that we have to do something about it. As far as bringing in the ranking of the school district, that is part of the goal. If you read our strategic plan and you look at it, the strategic mission that we've been on the last few years, we've been putting systems in place to address those issues. Do they happen overnight? Certainly don't. They don't happen overnight. I had a conversation prior to being a superintendent. One of the things I said, we have to change the trajectory. We have to change the narrative. We have to put resources in different places. So we've shifted that. Do you get the immediate results? Unfortunately, you do not get the immediate results. Everything happens over time. So that is the mission that we're focused on. We're truly focused on how do we change that? Do we take the blemishes of the downfall of the outcomes of our students? Yes, we certainly do. But we have a significant number of students who are excelling academically. So we can't put all kids in the same bucket. We can't say a new school will increase attendance. I mean, I don't think that's a study we talked about, but I certainly do believe as we bring in the programs that we bring, kids want to come to school. So when we talk about programs such as esports, we talk about our tech team, kids come to school specifically for those types of experiences. It's all about changing the experience for our learners. If we don't do those things, we're doing a disservice to our students. So certainly there is a correlation in that regards, and certainly my colleagues can add to that conversation.
I'm currently a retired business administrator doing interim work, but I've worked in some of the largest urban districts in the state of New Jersey. I've worked in Patterson, I've worked in Jersey City, I've worked in Newark, I've worked in other districts. There's not the correlation of where you rank when you're talking about an urban district has so many factors to it that like when you look at rankings, it does not usually depict the type of programs going on in the school district. Most of these urban districts, similar to Roselle, is facing a number of issues, a number of socio-economic issues. And those are the factors that usually lead to lower test scores. Specifically, one of the programs that was created to start addressing that is preschool education. One of the reasons why preschool education was developed was to start giving our seriously economically deficient students an opportunity that is given in that's not always given in urban districts, but in suburban districts they get these opportunities. That was one of the biggest reasons why preschool expansion for the state of New Jersey was increased. I was part of the district that got one of the first grants for preschool education, and those numbers significantly has helped in terms of raising those children. So when you look at rankings, many factors comes into that. And when you build new school buildings, you're creating facilities that are able to match the needs of the children. Ms. Gonzalez talked about our where some of those classrooms are right now. Would you feel if you're a student and you're in a closet for a classroom? Again, when you improve facilities, it adds to the educational experience. But is there a correlation to test scores and buildings facilities? Absolutely not. But there is a correlation to when you give opportunities and create new programs. And those spaces now you have to do that in, that's where you see those improvements coming. So like Dr. Fisher said, we're not looking to build a school to raise the test scores. We're looking to build the schools to provide an education for our students. And it's in those educational spaces will you see us presenting and trying to work with our children to give them those opportunities that they didn't have in other, that they didn't have up to that point. And one of the things that also supports what I'm saying is over 50 years ago, the Abbott versus Burke law, which is where Abbott funding came from, is specifically talking about in an urban district how you do not have the same opportunities as children in a suburban district. And that's where a lot of this money has come from. When you look at Newark, Jersey City, and many other, Elizabeth, many other districts that are considered Abbott districts, they've gotten millions of dollars to improve their facilities and provide new schools for their students. And it's in those opportunities that then they can now expand to maker spaces and preschool funding and all of those things. That's what we want to be a part of right now. And that's what this referendum is representing.
Hi, Dr. Duquesne. I just want to share something with you tonight. When I came out for this meeting, my son said, "Can I go with you?" I said, "No, not really." And he said, "Why? They have a way for me to get in." I said, "But the stage is going to be set up, and it's going to be difficult for me to navigate you. The handicap ramp is right behind here. I can't bring my son here to a meeting that he wanted to attend, but I also said to him, I don't want you to be a prop." He said, "I'm not a prop, Mom, it's a fact." He's right. So I left, and he's now home watching this meeting because he can't be in person like he wanted to be. That's not only just for him. What about parents who have mobility challenges? Community members who have mobility challenges? We are educating students who, for all intent and purposes, may be living with a grandparent. They're not in traditional homes anymore. That also leads to the chronic absenteeism. And schools, in addition to educating, are now social service agencies, because that's what you're asking us to deal with, the chronic absenteeism and all of those things. And I hear that. We are trying to make sure these children are prepared, given the opportunities that their other suburban counterparts are given. But the reality is we are educating urban students in suburban spaces, so we're held to a certain standard, and we're talking about rankings, but you're talking about test scores and testing that don't speak to them. And I want us to be mindful of that when we're talking about rankings in our schools. It is very important to me as a board member, and it is very important to the other board members. We talk about student achievement exhaustively, but how do we do that? And then our youngest learners, we need to pay attention to them too. They need the foundation to start that educational journey, and it's up to us, this community. No one's coming to save us. We need to save ourselves.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. And I want to address a couple of your points because I think they're very important. You shared about the chronic absenteeism rate, right?
Right.
At KSA, we always send out surveys. If you've had the opportunity to have a student at KSA while I've been principal there, you know I send a lot of questions.
When my kids were at KSA.
So I have been at KSA since July of 2024. And most recently, we sent out a survey to gauge our families and find out what hurdles they're having in getting their children to school on time and for the full duration of the school day. And one of the most common indicators that we've seen is that while KSA does start 10 minutes before all of the other elementary schools, parents are still having a very hard time navigating Roselle to get their kindergarten scholar to the Kindergarten Success Academy, and then possibly drive all the way over to Polk, Harrison, and Washington, park, and bring their children into school there. A pre-K through grade 2 school would alleviate a lot of that because our youngest scholars cannot navigate the walking spaces by themselves. They need their parents to assist. At the Kindergarten Success Academy, if you have a scholar there, you must park your car on either Walnut Street, 4th Avenue, or beyond, and walk your scholar to the 4th Avenue door through the parking lot. Since we do not have an allocated space just for Roselle Public Schools kindergarten students, we do have to implement a no parking or pulling into the parking lot for families. When it snows or when it rains, that poses a very large hurdle. And sometimes families have shared that it's easier to keep their young scholar home than to navigate the streets in the snow and in the rain, or just to park if they're running a few minutes late. So we have that hurdle that impacts attendance, and it was an indicator that parents shared with us. Dr. Fisher talked about, and Dr. Washington talked about opportunities for our youngest scholars. And, of course, research shows that when we set the foundation early, scholars have a great chance at success later on. But by building a new school, we're not just focusing on our early childhood population. We're also focusing on those opportunities for STEAM and for the arts for our 6th through 8th grade students. Building the new school would open up these opportunities that our scholars do not have currently. And Dr. Washington shared a little bit about parent mobility. At KSA, we are not handicapped accessible. So if you are a parent that has mobility concerns, you will not come to any of the shows, any of the concerts, because there's no way for you to get inside. We live stream our events, but there's no equity there, right? Because when our scholars look out into the audience, they don't see their parent there. And they know the reason why they don't see their parent there is because mom and dad couldn't walk through the door. And that's something that sits with me often as their principal. I tell them, don't worry, mommy and daddy are watching, they're watching on the iPad, but it's not the same as looking out into the audience and seeing their face there. So while we're talking about this early childhood space, I want you to really think about what it looks like in the neighboring towns, cities, and boroughs. Do Elizabeth students have a playground in kindergarten? Do Linden students have a playground in kindergarten? Do they have a cafeteria? We don't. Our scholars have to eat lunch at 12:30 in the afternoon because that is the earliest time that we can access the cafeteria. Half of the school eats for 21 minutes, and while the other half are outside in the parking lot having recess. Then they switch. Our students with disabilities that are not, that do not impact their ability to be mobile, but perhaps they have speech, OT, PT, they receive their special education related services in the basement of KSA, in a shared space, because there are no dedicated spaces for students with disabilities. And most recently, something that perhaps you don't know unless it really impacted you this year. We had several scholars unable to participate in anything at KSA because they were in a wheelchair or they had mobility issues, which means they didn't participate in our field day. They didn't participate in our concerts, in our fundraisers, in our dress down days. They were unable to participate and feel the excitement of being named a National School of Character in 2026, or most recently last week, named one of America's healthiest schools, that we were able to still accomplish with all of these tremendous hurdles. Luckily, we partnered with the Roselle Memorial Library so that at least they could graduate with their peers. So when we're thinking about equity, I want you to really think about what it looks like for our youngest scholars and what it looks like for our scholars as they transition into middle school. Because if we provide these opportunities, perhaps we'll see a correlation with their success post-high school. Thank you.
Some rankings, what we started with, are benchmark by which the whole system is compared. If the rankings don't match, that means something needs to be adjusted and tweaked. I think you guys have just made my case in terms that what we need to, what I would suggest you focus more on is the retention of high-quality teachers. We know there's a flight of high-quality teachers to these other places. What I would suggest you focus on in terms of that chronic absenteeism is, again, outreach to the parent. And one of the things that I'm gonna work with the Board of Health in terms of focusing on is children with asthma, children with healthcare problems that are also problematic in terms of attending school. So what I'm hearing is that a lot of the problems can be remediated. For example, getting a ramp here for her daughter. In other words, a lot of things can be remediated, become more efficient. But I don't think that $79 million building, I'm not saying there's never a need for it, but looking at the rankings, I'm suggesting that maybe the dollars and the efforts would be better used in substantive teachers, substantive program to help overcome these issues that are affecting our rankings, and that'll be that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just mention one more thing? You brought up a point that I meant to mention, so thank you. Retaining highly qualified, dynamic educators, of course, is at the forefront of every decision we make, right? Because we want wonderful educators in front of our scholars. It's a little bit more than money, although, of course, money, matters. However, if I can't even give my art teacher a desk in a classroom, how can I retain her if a district elsewhere is willing to give her an art studio? She has to share that hallway desk with another teacher, and all of her supplies are in the hallway. PE, Spanish, technology, art, music, all of that happens inside the classroom. There's no dedicated space for that. But there are districts that have beautiful spaces for these teachers. So while, of course, it's my responsibility as the principal to develop a great culture that would retain our educators, and I am actually very fortunate to work with dynamic educators at KSA, I can't give them the space they deserve. Our students deserve the space, and so do our educators.
And before the next question comes, I just want to share, we've been sharing out a lot of projects that have happened across the district at no new cost to the taxpayers, such as our fitness center, which is a state-of-the-art fitness center here in the high school. Across the hall, we just put the final touches on a new dance studio here in the high school for our dancers who were dancing wherever they could find spaces for their dance program. And I say this because we pursue a lot of grants, and oftentimes it goes unnoticed. We pursue a lot of grants. If you look around every campus that has a basketball court, via grants, we were able to update the basketball courts here in the district. That was at no additional cost to our taxpayers. You know, we've been able to do some renovations through just a host, you name it, we've been able to do it through funding outside of the community. I'm very proud to accept the fact that our state aid, which is about, I would say close to about 60% of our school budget. For me, that means 60% of what we receive to operate the school district comes from the state. That other 40% is what we get from the local taxpayer. And oftentimes when I'm looking at those numbers, I often say, well, you know, we're holding steady. This year we went with a 0% tax increase. Healthcare costs are through the roof. It's your job, my job, everybody's job. Healthcare costs are through the roof. We were able to keep a 0% tax increase by shifting some of our resources or eliminating some of the programs that we have that weren't necessarily considered essential. So, and when we come to the public for such an endeavor as a new school building project through the bond referendum, it didn't come lightly. It took years of planning. It took a lot of resources to make it to this particular day where we are. And I just sometimes, and I'll say it again, and it really hits home, because when you sit around for 30 years and you haven't seen any movement, it is perhaps for me the most frustrating experience and often embarrassing when I look at surrounding communities, districts across the country that I often see facilities that are exceptional, and I often wonder, why can't our kids have it? And I really know the answer to that. I really know the answer. But I certainly believe that we are putting the best possible project forward. We have passionate leaders across this district who are sitting out there. I know there was some information regarding student achievement, data. I got my supervisor of testing assessment. She would love to talk to you about data, and she'll even talk about the new NJSLA-A, I think it's called, right? That the state's playing games with those numbers. So we can play that game with those numbers, that the state make sure they make the adjustments, cut scores to fit those other communities. That's just one side of the equation. I won't talk about that in this setting, but I certainly want to say we have optimized grants up the wazoo. When we pursue an annual $600,000 grant for our after-school program, for our 21st century program, we're not asking the local taxpayer to fund that program. The state is allowing us to receive those dollars to service our students in grades 3 through 6. My plea to this community is, we have asked, we have begged from all these outside resources, but now it's time for us to ask the people at home. We're looking to you all. We're looking to you. And as I tell you, the folks, if you look to the far left over here, these are the people over here who work in the leaders who work in the district, who I charge to make me, help me get through this process. How do we reimagine the learning spaces with the resources that we have? Sometimes it's a very difficult challenge, and oftentimes when people don't have kids in school, it doesn't correlate. It doesn't matter to me. Those aren't my kids. When taxes go up and we keep it at 0, people say it's because of the school district. I can't go -0. I went 0. So that is a very frustrating process, and we have spent a lot of time. We have our professionals here. I would love for questions to be directed at the professionals, because at our last meeting, those were the questions that everyone wanted to know. I have the architects, I have the financial people. They're here to answer those questions. We can talk about the instructional side. We don't have to have that here. We certainly can have a forum at another time for that, but I would love for those questions, because we are less than 30 days away from what I believe to be a very monumental decision for this community. Less than 30 days. We put this in front of the state. We showed them the plan. We revised our long-range facility plan. Oh, I almost forgot. These 30-year-plus modulars that we had across the district. I know the Harrison Elementary School modular was about 30-something years old. That was rodent infested. If you drive around the town, we have addressed those. I want people to understand the things that we've done in this district with the resources that we have. Our sensory parks that we put at the various locations. That was a grant. Of course, we pursued another grant. Those are the things I think that are often missed out. But as soon as you say that, hey, we have burst at the seams, it becomes very problematic. We have been bursting at the seams. Why do we have a new renovated modular in the parking lot? Well, that's part of the cafeteria spillover. We can only hold about 175, I believe close to 200 students in the cafeteria at any given time. So again, what do we have to do? We need to put additional space. So we're trying to address the trends that are happening, and that's our enrollment trends. So we're looking our specialized programs, looking to bring programs in. It's easy to turn a cheek and not address those issues, but we are thinking future forward. No one can convince me that if you build, you won't need to accommodate new kids. There's no way you can tell me that. The enrollment is going up. It is happening. As you heard in our plan, we talked about the rezoning of the entire school district as part of our 3-5 transition process. That's because if you look at our Washington Elementary School, the enrollment has significantly went up because a certain area has given them additional students. So it puts the challenge, and no one ever asks, no one ever shares. We are chasing development. We are chasing development. We are driving this community, watching where the next building's going. That's what we do. We are trying to anticipate how many kids do you think will come out of that 195-unit building? We are anticipating, if it's a 1-2 bedroom, you know you can get a lot of kids. You can get 2 kids in a 2-bedroom. It's easy. So this is our challenge that we're sharing, and I'm glad it's public because this is the challenge that we are facing. People ask me this question every day: what are you going to do? And often I don't have the answer other than I need to bring a call to action. We need to move. And I'm certainly thankful for our board commissioners who have been committed, and we have been able to have some consistency on our board to be able to make decisions so that we can move this endeavor forward and put it to the people. And if I take a couple of steps back, when we initially began this endeavor, we had talked about pursuing a P3 project. We got stopped in our tracks. Then we were pursuing the UCIA, and I won't even go into that conversation because that was stopped because we couldn't get the partnership in that area. So again, it was suggested then that why don't you guys bring it to the voters? And this is what we are doing. We are bringing it to the voters because we need your support, period.
So when that conversation happened about 1.5 years ago, Dr. Fisher, this was a $56 million project, somewhere routes for the new school. In 1.5 years, it's now 80. One question I have is to explain that difference in yes, costs have gone up, but they've not gone up to that degree, in my opinion anyways. So that's one question. I want to get them out before I forget them. I've been standing up here for a bit. I wanted to ask practicality on if this were to pass. When do the bonds actually get floated, and when does that tax bill actually come due? Obviously, the way the tax bills go out, even if this were to happen next year, would it hit in Q3, Q4 of next year? Would it really hit in 2028?
I'll do that one first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, if we can start there.
So once if the questions are approved, we'll sit with the architects and there'll be a draw schedule that is put together. That draw schedule is going to dictate how long it's going to take to draw down the funds and when we would have to issue that. My numbers are assuming that we issue everything at the same time, but it's probably more likely that there'll be somewhat of a longer drawdown period where we might do 1 or 2 bond issues where it gradually goes into place. So just for a timeline purpose, let's just say everything was issued in December. That first payment wouldn't be until the next budget year. You would pull it out to the following budget year because we have to make sure that you're getting your state aid payments on a timely basis to offset. So all of that is taken into consideration. Now, depending upon how long the draw schedule will be, there could be 2 bond issues where maybe half of this is issued at first, and then half of that tax impact comes in for maybe the 27-28 budget year. It really depends on the ultimate draw schedule and when the funds are needed and when the projects can go to bid.
And procedurally on a tax bill, this would just fall under your normal Board of Ed line. There's no specific line that gets broken out, correct?
It's under debt service. It's under debt service in the school budget. Yeah, and so
Not on the budget, but on your actual tax bill, municipal, school, county, it would add a line specific to this?
It's one whole tax rate line for the school district, yeah.
Okay.
But you'd be able to see it broken out in the school district budget,
In the budget, not your tax bill?
yeah.
Okay. So I'll have to think
Do you want to
through
go
how
to the building question?
Yeah, so the difference between the 56 and the 80
I don't
million.
recall what, honestly, I don't recall what the design was for the 56 million, and I don't think it was apples to apples. I don't think the 2 building sizes were the same size.
So it's a bigger building now.
I don't have the information in front of me to tell you what the 56
Okay.
million was based upon. That's what I meant.
I'm just,
I can answer that question. So we added additional pre-K spaces in the building because we realized we were going with a preschool expansion grant. So it required that we needed more classrooms for the pre-K program. Because currently we have 6 pre-K? Seven pre-K. Well, prior to the First Light, we had only six locations. We had 6 classrooms across the district. So that was at that initial plan. And then once the preschool expansion came into play, it warranted that we need to go back and revisit and create additional space for our pre-K program. So that really changed the design, but it also we went away from, I believe one of our initial renditions were what we have currently, a cafetorium, which all 3 in one, cafeteria, auditorium, and the gym. And one of the things we said, because we focused on community access, we said we need to make sure that this facility has community access to have 3 separate locations so that we wouldn't be locked into restrictions. So that really changed the whole concept of the design.
fair enough. And then I was just thinking of it while I was up here talking about the new apartments. Do we know at this point how many students are registered in the district, specifically out of the Park apartments?
Well, not at this particular second, because that enrollment may have changed. Our last meeting, we did have information. I believe we have about 75 kids, but that number, I have to look and give you a more accurate number if we have some new students who are coming out of the buildings.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. I mean, that's a good comparison for any future building. I mean, that's 927 units, and if we only have 75 kids in the district out of those, that'd be a good way to estimate what we're looking at in any other.
Microphone.
Right.
I don't think that one works.
But at this point, we would have good data. The Park apartments started coming online almost a decade ago at this point. So we know as those units got built, how many kids came into the district, and they're essentially fully built now. So at 920-something units, 75 kids is not as high a number, I think, as most people would assume.
Well, I do have my data supervisor here tonight who could
Good,
probably
good.
pull that information up, because it's about stump the super tonight. Yeah.
But I think one thing, we're talking about the apartments, but what about the homes being sold to people who have young school-age children or who are starting families? Because when we have a lottery, as I explained in the last meeting, we can only accept 50 students off the lottery. This year also, going from KSA back to Washington, that area, we have 92 first graders, 3 first grade classrooms. What is the average class size? That's just at Washington. That's just at Washington. 92 of the 220 graduating students-ish, 92 of them are going to Washington. That school is bursting. All of them are bursting. I had a parent ask me recently, does Washington, because I was there, does Washington have a library? No, they don't. But the school did, in good weather, walk the children to the Roselle Memorial Library. But the pre-Kers don't do that walk. Where's the equity in that?
And I'm just going to, I just felt compelled to share an email that I had received at 4:30 today from a family. And I met this family at the authors event in June. And they talked about preschool. And the family actually sent an email today to myself and Ms. Gonzalez. It says, "Thank you both for your continued communication for the opportunity for our son to attend pre-K 4 at Washington Elementary School. Our family is truly appreciative of your support and efforts throughout the process." Now, when I met this family at the the authors event, they kind of put me on the spot and said, "Hey, we're in the lottery. You know, I hope you can help me." And I said, "That's a different department." But I was very thankful and encouraged that they received this email today, because I couldn't help them at the moment. I couldn't just say, you're good, you'll be in. But to be able to say it on this day, the 18th of August, that they're comfortable in congratulating this administrative team for ensuring that kid got in the pre-K, it means a lot. That's just one family. That's just one family.
I think a lot of your questions kind of make us think of different things, right? And that's for next year? Yeah. Okay. And this year, I think a little bit under 50. So take a 3-year-old that stays home for 3, for age 4, and now walks into kindergarten without any kind of prep, any kind of instruction, any kind of socialization, any kind of motory skills. You take that 5-year-old, and you take the 5-year-old that's been in the preschool program for the age of 3, for the full age of 4, and then they start kindergarten. I'm sure this principal right here could tell you the difference in those 2 children, because the impact of 2 years of education is significant. One of the things as a parent, I'm a parent of 3, my young daughter going, and she's 34 now, but me putting her in school at 3 gave her the biggest advantage in her life. At 5, she was reading Charlotte's Web and teaching the children that didn't go to school. The teacher sat her in between 2 children that did not attend school until they got to kindergarten, and she ended up teaching them how to read. My point is, you can never lose with 2 years of education. Is this a financial issue? Absolutely not. This is an education issue. You talk about rankings. What do you think that 2 years of no education does to a child in comparison to their counterparts who's already been in school for 2 full years? If you ask the average teacher, they don't ever catch up. They don't ever catch up if you ask a teacher, because 2 years of education can't be replaced. This is 2 years that you give a child and a family that hope that my child is going to go on and be successful. That's what preschool is, the opportunity for success.
Good evening, Renee Smith, 158 East State Avenue. And at the last meeting, and I'll do this here, I'll preface with, we definitely need a new school. I don't think that's the issue. I don't think that's a question here. I think a lot of families are concerned about the cost because everyone is feeling the pinch right now. So right now on the document here, it has a project cost of $79.7 million, and it's going to be 80 something plus the other renovation. My question to you is, because there's such a huge concern with regards to the cost, is there any way that what the plan is can be massaged so that the numbers can be a little bit more palatable to the residents? Because I don't think any of the residents are in disagreement that we need a new school. That is not the issue that we're having. Education is vital to any organization, any community. However, right now, where families are financially, when they think of a $700 minimum that's going to be added to their bill, Dr. here said his will going to be $2,000. People are concerned because they're already under the gun when it comes to what they have to pay. Is there a way that you can massage those numbers that you have now, the building that you have, some of the things that you decided to put into the building, the architecture, there are some things, is there any way that you can massage that so that it's a little bit more palatable? Because as it stands, they're not going to bite. They cannot afford to bite. It's not that they don't want to, they just cannot afford to. When you look at the numbers, it is very hard. It's a very hard pill to swallow. It really is. I would say I'm an educator now. So when you look at the building, I know you said you're going to have, is it 9 pre-K classes? 12 pre-K classes. I want to know if the building that is going to be constructed, will it really alleviate the problem that we have now? Because for grade 1, grade 2, we have, I think, 4 at Polk, we have 3 at Washington, and we have maybe 4 at Harrison. So that's 4 and 4, 8, and 3, 11. We're adding 12 classes. Right now, what we're going to do is, because the classes are bulging at the schools, the elementary schools. So when you go to the new facility, you're really going to spread that number over the 12th class. Are you really are you adding more room or capacity with the building that we're adding? Is it going to give us that extra, we have that 92 students, is it going to give us the capacity that we need for the growth that we're going to experience? If you look on, so we have the Park Apartments, and I don't know if Brandon remembers, years ago when we had a discussion about the Park Apartments, the document said only 19 students are coming from that building. We have surpassed that 4 times. 4 times. We're at 75 based on what you just said. So that's 4 times the amount that we're supposed to get from the Park Apartments. Now if you look on off of St. George, back over by Polk, whoa. Don't know what's going on over there, but again, we're gonna see another increase. It's not gonna be the 900 to Park, but it's gonna be, we're gonna get hit again. And all those little houses that they keep building in those empty spots, we're going to get hit again. So my question is, are we going to be able to accommodate all those students with just 12 classes? I don't think it's going to fulfill the need, the capacity. I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough. Let me just stop there. We need, we need to go bigger. Go big or go home. However, getting back to the financial piece, we have to balance it. So my question to the financials architect, are you able to massage that number down so it's more palatable to the residents? And 2, for the board to really look at that number to say, is it going to be enough? Because I don't think it will be. So if we're going to do it, do it. But if we're going to do it, make sure it's palatable. Thank you.
All right, let me start. I could say regarding the budget that was established for the new school, Chandler School. I've been designing schools for 35 years. I know exactly what they cost, and the prices keep increasing, especially post-COVID. The budget includes everything that is required as a turnkey to open up the doors. It includes the furniture, it includes clearing the wooded site, bringing all the utilities to the site, you know, water, gas, et cetera. It includes everything. It is not a box with vinyl siding on it, it's a school. It's a brick building with other kinds of materials. It's not a building where the interior is made of painted sheetrock. That is a maintenance nightmare over the years. It is CMU block walls, painted walls. It has to be built so it's a maintenance-free or low-maintenance building. It has to last over time. The program was established with the district on a number of classrooms we needed, all the different special spaces, et cetera. So the size of the building is the size of the building, approximately 115,000 square feet. The site, 4.9 acres, needs to be completely improved, if you will, for the spaces that we need. We're obviously going to keep as many trees as we can, especially around the neighboring residential areas. But we need retention basins, we need parking lots, there's lots of things we need. So the budget was established based upon the scope of the project. As I said, construction costs are rising every day. The rates that have to be paid for school projects are prevailing wage rates. That's a state requirement. So there's certain wages you have to pay to the contractor, called prevailing wage. So it's based upon that as well. As Tony mentioned earlier, any funds that are not used, if the bids come in lower, the money gets returned to the taxpayers. The district doesn't just use it. So if the bids do come in lower than anticipated, and there is a contingency built into the budget, if all the funds are not used, if we spend 70 million or 75 million and not 80, the funds get returned to the taxpayers.
Very rare do you see any project coming under budget. It's very rare.
A school project has to come under budget. It has to. We cannot spend more money than the taxpayers have voted on. So it always is under budget. That's why there's a contingency built in to the budget.
What is that percentage, that contingency?
I don't recall the, it may be 10%. That's generally what we add,
10 to
maybe
15%?
10% of the construction cost, not of the total project. So it's not $8 million.
Okay.
It's 10% probably of the construction cost.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to, I think on the project, and I think I mentioned that at the last meeting, you have on the build the reconstruction of the
Central office.
central office. Is that a new build reconstruction? Is that, where does that fall? Is that on the question 2 or question 1?
Two.
That's on question 2.
So even if question 2 has to pass,
For question 2.
no,
Question
question 1
one
has to pass for question 2.
Question 2.
Can I ask why? Why did you do that?
The need is for a school. That's the tremendous need to meet the, as you put it, the new population coming in. The other projects were put in to provide other projects for the rest of the buildings that, as Dr. Fisher put it, hasn't really been renovated at all. So to be able to also have a vote out there in equity, that every school through this vote will see something change, was important to all of us. We didn't want just one, just like a pre-K to 2 families getting excited. We wanted all the community to get excited that we were looking and considering all the different things in every school, so that when you come back and see certain things now, a makerspace here, a new vestibule in that school, that you would say, wow, everybody's seeing the cost of this referendum. So that's why we made that decision, because If you take that off, we're still at 70-something million. So the issue was to see, let's get some more equity in all of that we're considering, because to Dr. Fisher's point, we've been doing a lot with no increase in taxes. But there comes a point where where you need extra money. We don't have any extra money. So we're using this, just 2%. 2% is what we're allowed to increase it by. We didn't increase it. That doesn't even cover salaries at 2%, but we're making it happen. And now we need this to be able to now truly accommodate these students. And the ripple effect of this school will affect the entire district, because now it frees up spaces in every school. And now, in addition to what we have on the referendum, the opportunity for even more programming is now paramount.
Renee, as you know, as a former board member, we used to have our families pay for pre-K. It was full-time and it was part-time. Some parents paid $500 for the full-time and $200 for the part-time. Our pre-K expansion grant eliminated that. But then we ran into the issue of space. But part of the pre-K expansion grant, they also said we have to continue to work with our community partners. So you guys are not considering the students that are gonna go to kindergarten that are coming from the Leaguers, that are coming from Chestnut Street Community Church, that are coming from not just another daycare, or who sat at home. We're not thinking about those students who are now entering, because KSA consistently has over 200 children in their building. So we have to stop thinking in just the one train of thought of, okay, it's only 74 kids from the Park Apartments. People have bought homes here. People have moved here, whether it's an apartment or living with relatives, they're here. Our job is to educate them, but more importantly, our educators are educating our students in antiquated spaces. And when we talk about retaining teachers, look at them and just, what we're saying to them is, you don't deserve to be creative in a new space. We are challenging them with doing great things, but we're restricting the space. You're handcuffing them, and we can't do that. Every decision I make as a board member, I'm also a taxpayer because I own my home, so I know what it's going to affect me too. I don't have children here anymore, but it still bothers me that we have old buildings. I was educated in a building that looked just this old when I was in high school, and I graduated high school in 1989. I went to an elementary school that looked just like Polk School. Our babies deserve better. We deserve to give it to them. The Department of Education is cutting everything. What happens if, for example, St. Joe says, okay, we're gonna pull your lease. Where are we going to put our kindergartners? Because that can happen. That can happen. So if that happens, then we'll be back here again. And I think it's just important for us to understand that. My cell phone costs almost $1,900. The iPhone Pro costs almost $2,000, but I see people having them. Where are our priorities as a community?
Again, I don't think that's the issue. And as I just said to you before, I don't think what you have is enough. Based on everything that we've just said, that is not enough. But again, going back to you guys, it is a function. As much as no matter how we want to address this elephant, money is a factor. It is a factor. So in order for this to go through, we're gonna have to you're gonna have to work those numbers so that the families feel comfortable. As much as they want the new school, it has to make sense for them in their pockets, because that's where it's gonna hurt. The other question I would like to ask, and I'm not sure, what's the timeline after, for argument's sake, it does go through, when do you, and the bonds and everything gets worked out, and then you can start, when does your shovel go in the ground, and how long will it take to get this project done?
Want me to answer that, Dr.?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
I had preliminary discussions with Dr. Fisher. We think it's going to be a 3-year total process.
Okay.
To do the design, get permitting done, get Department of Education approval, and obviously land clearing and construction. So the target is really September of '29 for the school to open.
September 2029.
3 years.
Thank you.
And we're going to maybe take just 2 final questions for this evening.
Yeah, just back to the professionals. So I was wondering, do you have a percentage breakdown of soft costs versus hard costs on the 80?
Say it again.
On the $80 million for the
Yes.
school, what's the breakdown
I don't
between
have
the
it.
soft costs and hard costs?
I honestly don't have it in front of me. There obviously is a break of hard numbers to soft numbers, but I don't have that number in front of me.
You know,
I'm sure
roughly?
the district could probably provide that information.
Do you know roughly? Is it 20% soft costs, 30, 40?
Well, it depends on what you're saying is soft cost, because IT and furniture, you know, and we call it FF&E, furniture, fixtures, equipment, is really soft costs. It's engineering, it's contingency on the project, all that sort of thing. It's generally probably in the 25% range.
Fair enough. And then on the annual, I'm assuming it's a flat repayment over the 30 years. For just the question 1 portion, what's the estimated annual payment on the debt?
So the average annual is 4.6 million. That's what the average over the 30 years. But under school bond law, we have to stay within a certain principal repayment schedule where no year can be less than half your largest year. So what actually ends up happening is that the payments are a little bit larger in the earlier years, and then they drop down over the 30-year period. So, you know, about 10 years, we start at about 5 million and they go down to about 3 million by the end.
And in the estimated tax impact that we've been talking about, what's factored into that? Is that based on the 5 million payment in year 1?
Yeah, that's the average over the life. So
Okay.
it nets out all the state aid payments over the life and does an average calculation
And then
over 30 years.
Is that discounting anything, like the $500,000 we're paying in the lease, is that discounted out of
It
that?
is not.
Okay,
It is not. It's
but it's
the full
average,
amount of the
so-
project plus interest, less state aid. It's
So
it's
the-
not discounting any of the lease payments that are made for the building currently.
So it would be anticipated that the initial tax hit is actually more than that average? If the payments are higher at the beginning and then wind down
Yes,
to cover that
also
5.
depending upon how the bonds are issued. So it might be
Right.
also less in the first 2 years as the projects ramp up.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I don't really have a question. My name is Aisha. I am a current board commissioner, and I just wanted to share because I was sitting next to someone and they said that, you know, I shared information with her that she had not received here in the meeting. Like, we retrofitted spaces all throughout the district. I've been creative, Dr. Fisher said, the trailers, all of these things we've done. Also, when I started on the board, we began asking a lot of questions. We inherited whatever the district looked like. As we became commissioners, we inherited it. So we started asking questions, and a lot of things came up, and this phrase, past practice, right? It's taboo, this past practice, right? Just because this is the way we've been doing it doesn't mean that it is the best thing for us. Past practice for our community has not been supporting referendums. So this project is how many years in the making? 60 years in the making. Okay, so we cannot continue with past practice if it is not going to allow us to move forward in the trajectory that we want. That is what we made, the decisions we made as commissioners, that we got to cancel some of these past practices. And whatever tensions we had to live in at that time, we had to exist in it because the end goal was to get us to here. And so now we are here, and we are petitioning to our community that we cannot afford not to support our community, our youngest learners with this project, and ultimately every learner in our district and community member, because this project will also include community spaces. So I just wanted to share that if you have not seen some of the media that's been out explaining some of the issues and challenges, please do watch all of this stuff and get your neighbors out to these events, because it is important. We cannot continue in this manner. We have to do something different for our community, and that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turnage. I want to thank everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, my very last question for the evening.
Thank you.
Yes, we were.
I have sent a series of questions, and I was hoping, although I did get some answers for some of the questions, but not all of them, and I was hoping, since I did submit those questions beforehand, that I would get some kind of answers to those questions. Especially the financial part, that was not, the last time that we were here, the financial part was not answered. And still now, you know, you cannot really say, well, I'm not convinced of the fact that, of the financial part. Although I'm convinced that we do need the school, there is no question about it, that we do need school. We do because of the growth of the population. However, you have not covered how much it's gonna cost us. We asked for an itemized cost for the new construction. We did not get that. How much is it going to be for the furniture, all these different parts of the project? We've also wanted to know for how much is it going to be the pre-referendum cost, because as I'm looking at it, there's a pre-referendum cost that we do not know how much that is either. So it would be nice, you know, just like we're talking about transparency, we need to know how much. We know that we need the schools. There's no doubt about it. However, you know, where it's gonna hit us more, we need to know. We need to know that. Okay, and we have all these people, the financial people. The last time Dr. Fisher wasn't able to provide that information, but he did say for this meeting here, we're gonna have all these people in place that's gonna be able to answer those questions. And if you can help us with that, it will be very helpful. Thank you.
What I would say to your question is the costs that you see there, and they was talking about what all the costs are. It's not cost yet, it's a budget. So the 80 million that you see is budgeted. We will not know the exact cost to all of these pieces until we go out to bid. And then you'll see all the details on what the furniture will cost, what the construction will cost, what all of the subcontractors will cost. And that's when we'll know the difference. What we have here is an estimate that this is gonna be no more than 80 million. That's what we have, and it has different components to it. But until we actually put it out to bid, those numbers are not something we have. We just have estimates, and the estimates are based on averages and their best guesses in terms of different components, and also following the state regulations in terms of spacing and how much square footage is, and we take the average square foot cost, and that's how they come up with this cost. But the details that you're asking for, we won't have until everything goes out to bid.
Even for the pre-referendum cost?
The pre-referendum cost is really, right now, which we're already dealing with, is the cost of the vote. So everything that we're doing to vote, and we've already covered those costs.
Oh, you have? So
Yes.
it was already predetermined in the budget that we
It-
have right now, in the school
Yes,
budget?
so we already have covered those costs with with what we have in our operating budget. Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Jose. It's a challenge to be here because my first language is Spanish, so I'm trying, I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm here for my daughter. She's 5 years old. I came from Ecuador, and I just want to make a testimony about this. And I don't want to talk about the money and how you're going to spend in this. I'm worried about her. It's the first time she's going to study in kindergarten. I can say that my wife spent work with her 2 or 3 hours per Monday to Friday. She has, when she got 4 years old, she can read and she can speak in Spanish and English. So I'm so proud of that. And I can see that the fewer students per room is better than a lot. So the teacher can see what they need, you know? So that's what I want to say. And other thing is that I'm so worried about because she's gonna play with the other kids in a parking lot. I'm not gonna be good while I'm working, okay? So I'm really considering maybe homeschooling, I don't know, because she's smart. And I'm pretty sure that if you got fewer kids per room, it's better than a lot. And this building, I'm pretty sure it's gonna help because the first time that I went to register my daughter, I have a lumbar fusion here. I had an accident here 3 years ago, and for me, it was so hard to go to the register. I have to go a lot of stairs, but I did for her because I know that she needs to learn. You know, and that's everything I want to say. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So prior to us closing, I just want to, thank you all again for being here with us. But I want to impress upon all of us, when we talk about return on investment, the return on investment is the education and investment in our students. They are our future. It is not cliche. So while we're starting at the foundation, they will become the future of our students. They are the future doctors. We have several that have come out of this district. They are the future lawyers. There are several that have come out of this district. They are your nurses. They are your engineers, future architects. They have come out of your district. IT professionals have come out of this district. I am proud of every student when I sign a diploma, and more importantly, most of the students who graduated this past school year started at KSA. I want to see us give these students what they deserve. It is time. We can't continue the narrative of what we can afford. If we prioritize, because I see the affordability of some things that are prioritized in our community, and I shake my head when I look at education, and it's not a priority for some of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Let me just thank everyone again on behalf of the Roselle Public School District and our board commissioners who are here this evening, and certainly our councilmen for coming out, and I believe I saw the senator who was here. And again, I just had a conversation with him earlier regarding supporting the district as we move forward. But I just want to thank everyone who took time to come out, because this is not an easy task. We have been working for multiple years on this effort. I do ask that you continue to stay connected with us on all our social media platforms. If you have additional information that you want to inquire about, you certainly can email Vote 2026. What we are starting to get a series of questions, just lots of redundant questions, but we are getting questions that we're trying to answer as much as possible. But I do want to encourage you to understand that this is a very important voting process for us. September the 15th is the date. If you feel free to visit the website. I want to encourage you to just have conversations with your neighbors who may have some questions. I would certainly direct them to the district website where there's all the information that we have spoken about tonight will be available. We will be out in the community at a number of events, just sharing information, looking again, putting some feet to the ground and trying to make sure that we get this message out there. I just want to thank everyone. We look forward to September the 15th. At the conclusion of this, I do ask that you take an opportunity to come up and see the renditions of the renovations that we shared up on the big screen. And thank you again. If you want to go back and watch the video, the video will be available on our district Roselle Tube channel, which is on right off the district website, and also available directly under the YouTube tab. So thank you everyone for coming out. I want to thank my professionals. I want to thank you for taking time to be here for our folks. Thank you very much. Thank my administration team for coming out, and board commissioners who are here. Thank you for coming out as well. Have a great evening, everyone.
Hi, I'm Dr. Fisher, the proud superintendent of the Roselle Public Schools. Our district has always been a place of possibilities. Take it from me, I arrived here as a substitute teacher back in 1990, and I've spent my entire career serving Roselle students, and I want every one of them to find their own path to success. We work hard to provide students with extensive opportunities here at the Roselle Public Schools. The Board of Education and district leaders have found creative ways to fund building improvements at no additional cost to taxpayers. But there are limits to what we can do with our current space. Our youngest students feel the most impact. We hold a lottery for our pre-K program, and dozens of students remain on our waiting list. Many of our pre-K and kindergarten students attend school in rented space at a cost of more than $500,000 a year. These classrooms are not designed according to New Jersey standards. Many are too small and they have no bathrooms or storage. Plus, the lack of dedicated school space for early elementary education creates crowding across the rest of the district.
For many members of our community, the conversation about building a school isn't new. What was once a future consideration has now become an urgent reality. Our district is serving more students with more diverse learning needs. We are running out of space to serve our students effectively. Renting more space may address today's needs, but it is a Band-Aid on a challenge that has been growing for years. That is why the Roselle Board of Education is moving forward with a plan to transform our district and community. On September 15th, our community will vote on a bond referendum that would finance critical school improvements. When voters approve a referendum, Roselle receives state aid that we cannot access through our regular school budget. State aid lowers the amount that our community pays towards the project cost. We also want our senior homeowners to know that there are programs available to help ease the burden of property taxes. Using one application, seniors can sign up for 3 state tax relief programs.
The bond referendum includes projects that could make a powerful difference for our students and elevate our entire community. A new 3-story school building for pre-K through grade 2 will be built on Chandler Avenue on property the district already owns. Students will have a space for services and programs that support a strong foundation. All pre-K and kindergarten classrooms would have a bathroom, which is a state requirement. The gym and auditorium will be available for community use outside of school hours.
One of the most meaningful benefits of a new school building is that it would be fully ADA compliant, so all students, families, staff, and community can take part in school life with dignity and ease. This issue is deeply personal to me. My son is a former Roselle Public School student who suffered a life-changing brain injury while he was a student. Today he uses a wheelchair, and because many of our older buildings were not designed with modern accessibility standards in mind, attending certain school events and activities can be challenging or in some cases simply impossible. A new school would offer learning spaces that are modern, safe, and welcoming to everyone. We also could create a more connected and consistent educational journey for all students. Our students attend as many as 6 different schools, from pre-K through graduation, and each move requires adjustments to new buildings, routines, and classmates. More space will provide flexibility to reduce transitions district-wide, giving students more time to form relationships and settle in and learn.
We will be able to offer 2 junior high schools with Grace Wilday and Leonard V. Moore, both serving grades 6 through 8. Wilday would be a school for the arts, and Moore would be a school for innovation. Those 2 schools, as well as the elementary schools, would get makerspaces through the bond referendum. Makerspaces offer hands-on modern instruction. Our STEAM machine currently brings those types of opportunities to schools on a rotating basis. This project will provide permanent spaces for innovative learning. At Abraham Clark High School, our historic auditorium needs attention. Proposed projects include new light fixtures, stage lighting, repainted and restored walls and ceiling, and a refinished stage floor. Carpeting, drapes would be updated, and the balcony rail would be replaced to enhance safety. Of course, safety is a priority at Roselle Schools, and we need to make our school entrances more secure. Now, this referendum includes safety vestibules at all schools so office staff could screen visitors before they enter the building. The final project reflects our commitment to serve all learners. We will convert part of our central office into a transition center to prepare adult students with special needs for independent living and the workforce.
At the heart of this referendum is a simple belief. When we invest in our schools, we invest in the future of our entire community. Strong schools impact where families choose to live, help support property values, and contribute to the overall vitality of our borough. This referendum is not only about addressing today's needs, it is about positioning Roselle for tomorrow by creating schools and shared spaces that reflect the pride, potential, and promise of our borough.
The bond referendum will be held on a special election date on September 15th so that voters can focus solely on the school ballot questions. Voting by mail will be available for the election. To apply to vote by mail and for other important information, such as voter deadlines and polling locations, please visit our website. Now, we ask you to see our website and social media accounts to learn more about the proposed projects. We will hold informational events, and we will have presence at all school and community activities from now through the vote. I want to thank you for your interest in the future of the Roselle Public Schools. And remember to vote September 15th.